everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 430, and today we're doing Battle in a Ruthless Rumble. And so, as usual, you want to see the decks, scroll backwards through the channel. If you want to skip ahead, today we're going to be playing Aatrox Vayne, we're going to be playing Scouts, and we're going to be playing Jinx Kennen, a little bit of a shake-up from the previous video. And so that previous video, yeah, that was our first foray into the best of three in this current format. I was woefully underprepared for jumping into what we were getting into there now, but I played that, the one we recorded, I went 0-2 in it. The next Rumble I joined up in, I made some edits and stuff. We went 2-2 in it, managed to take down the wonderful Mage and Bay in one of those two victories, and then after some more edits, some changes, and some updates, I managed to 5-0 the third Rumble. And so that same lineup we used to 5-0 the previous Rumble is what we're going to be bringing here today, and I'm a little bit happier with it, and I've gotten to the point to where I feel pretty comfortable making some tweaks and making some edits to it, making some lineup-specific thoughts and ideas to help us achieve the results we're looking for. And so, as kind of with the previous video, I have a little bit of a notes section I wanted to pull up here. And I think the big thing that we're going to see in this format is Samira Fizz. And whether or not you intend on playing it, I think you're going to have to really kind of account for it, right? I think if you asked me, hey, Bust, do you think you're going to play Samira Fizz in 50% of your matches? Do you want to take the over or the under? I would take the over. I would be not surprised if we played against Samira Fizz in 6 or 7 of the matches that we end up playing in the open event. And I wouldn't really be surprised if we played it in 100% of the matches in the Ruthless Rumble today. And so, with that in mind, again, whether or not you plan to play it or go up against it, you have to ask yourself, which of these 4 questions do you really want to follow and answer, right? Do you want to play Samira Fizz with the intention of banning your opponent's version? Do you want to play it, but plan to play the mirror match and deal with whatever else is in their lineup? Do you want to not play it and then still ban it? And so you say, that's the best deck in the format. I don't intend on playing it because I'm not experienced enough with it, or it doesn't fit the lineup theme or whatever, but I'm just going to ban it out so I don't have to deal with that nonsense. That's what you're going to say if you want to play a deck like Jack's Ornn. Last but not least, you just don't play it and you don't ban it. That's what we're going to be doing today. And as I scroll down to the next part, I think that that's something that's going to take a little bit of stones, a little bit of testicular fortitude or ovarian fortitude, if you will, in terms of approaching this format. I think it's okay though. To me, the thing with Samira Fizz is it's one of those decks that can just kind of outright win the game. Right? They're going to have just nut draws you can't beat. You're going to have a draw where you stumble. But I think that that's kind of just baked into the percentages, and it sucks to have matchups like that when you're playing a lot of really singular focused matchups. I can't remember the word, right? But the kind of idea is if I had to say play Drissoth in a best of 1, that's a pretty good shot that we can come out with a victory, right? He might be a 75% favorite over us, but we have a pretty good chance to win that singular match. If we have to play $1 million match, us against Drissoth, I want it to be a best of 1 instead of a best of 1,000, right? If we play a best of 1,000, he's just going to annihilate us over the course of all of those games. But that's the kind of idea that, you run into with the Samira Fizz deck, is you might have a deck that's a 60-65% win rate over top of it, but you're playing best of 1s, right? And just the chance that they just get that draw that just nuts you and you have no response to it is something that's certainly there. And just one of the risk factors that we're going to have to take. But my kind of stance with the deck is I don't feel very comfortable playing it. I looked to pick it up the other day, and it's kind of like you're scrolling through Runeterra.ar and you see that Mage and Bay's played at 70 games over the past 2 days, and you're like, oh god, I'm still sitting at like maybe 70 games lifetime, and it's just not a situation to where I want to be playing those mirror matches, and so we're just going to be not playing it and not banning it. Up next, I think this is the next big thing I've really kind of baked into our lineup is you don't really want to be playing big spells in this format, right? There's just, what I mean by this is it's okay to play a card like Champion Strength, but I don't think you want to be bringing a triple Champion Strength lineup. I think you're going to run into too many instances to where Rite of Negations and Avenging Vestias and Denies are just too popular, and I don't really want to be in that mindset to where we're playing a Champion Strength lineup or a Buried in Ice kind of lineup into the likes of those decks. And so we've made some edits, some tweaks, some changes to keep that in mind, but we're definitely not playing triple Champion Strength as we did in the previous Open. And so in terms of the decks that we're going to be bringing, again, we're going to be playing Vayne Aatrox. We're going to be playing Jinx Kennen, and we're going to be playing Scouts. This is the kind of idea with the bans that we're going to run into. We don't want to play against the Nasus deck. That's just way too strong against what we're doing. Don't want to play against Norra decks, whether or not that's something like Norra along with Swain is the most common one, Norra along with Lord Broadmane in whatever degree, or even Norra tied up with Jen. I don't really want to play against any of that stuff, but if we have to do it, whatever, if that means getting a Nasus deck out of the way. And then last but not least, I don't really want to play against the Bandle City control decks, and that being things like Gnar that are going to have those Avenging Vestias within the deck, but then they're also going to have probably the full complement of group shots and Pytosses that just really hamper our 1 health units based decks. And so that's what we're going to be looking to ban out in terms of these things. And then as we look into the decks, I'm trying to think to myself if I shouldn't have just shown the decks first, but it's too late at this point. I'm not going to record all of this again. And so it is what it is. As we pull up the decks, you can keep these things in mind. We have our decks teched to be good against Samira, Fizz, and Jinx Kennen, and so you're going to see some specific choices as these deck lists come up. We're going to have Grumble Slugs and Scouts. We're going to have triple Steadfast Elkin along with the Ionian equipment coming out of Aatrox Vayne, and then in Jinx Kennen we're also playing Time Winders as a ways to kind of pick up some 2-for-1s along the way. And so, with those last two pieces in mind, the bans and the tech, we can't pull these deck lists up. First and foremost, we're going to be playing Scouts, and this is something where we've made a few edits. I usually don't spend this much time on the deck list themselves, but I think it's worth calling out here. We're not playing Durandi Sculptor. There's way too many of these games to where you're playing against Jinx Kennen, and you have a curve where you go Shell Shocker into Durandi Sculptor into whatever, and your opponent plays 3 1-drops. And then at that point, you have to be in the mindset of just preventing every single point of damage that they do. We're going to win these games control decking them with Mirai Wardens and Island Navigators, getting 2-for-1s onto the opponent. And so when you have that space, you just have to trade away the Durandi Sculptor, and you never get to get the bonus health. And the bonus health isn't really that important outside of just taking Misfortune up to 4 health so she survives a blowback. And so with that in mind, we've added in Grumble Slugs. This does a couple of different things for us. It gives us a unit that can basically 2-for-1 the entirety of the Jinx Kennen deck. It lets us get in front of those 2-1 units and then get a trade across 2 turns, blocking 1 and then trading the next turn. And so very powerful in that sense, but it also gives us that attune. It gives us that mana back, so we get to regain a little bit of that tempo loss to help us cast some of our spells along the way. Mentioning those spells, we've edited ourselves down to 2 copies of Champion Strength, but with that second copy of Champion Strength, we've also kicked Genevieve up to 2 copies. The idea here being that we expect a lot of the lineups to be playing both Samira, Fizz, and Jinx Kennen, and you just need to get on board early. And so you have these games to where you draw 2 copies of Champion Strength early. You just basically mulliganed low and got a terrible draw, and now you can't recover. And so the 1 less copy of Champion Strength helps in that sense, but then the Genevieves also tie into that don't play big spells theme. And so as we're going up to battle against decks that have the counter spells in it, you can't counterspell a Genevieve, and she really helps in that sense. The last thing to note with the spells, playing a single copy of Cataclysm, I'm considering adding in the second one. With this, as we were going through these games, the thing that I was really looking for was just some kind of way to interact with the opponent, some way to say, okay, well, I'm going to fight your unit. And so whether or not that was going to be single combat or whatever, Cataclysm is kind of a classic thing that we used to play in Scouts, since it also doubles up in strength with the Scout units. And so you can Cataclysm a Scout, get the attack token back, and make some more attacks from that point forward. Cataclysm giving us that little bit of extra oomph that you don't get out of single combat, and it should be a little bit easier to cast since we are playing those Grumble Slugs in here as well. Up next, Aatrox Vayne. This is the space to where you can't play Quinn if you're playing Scouts, right? So that limits us to just the direct Aatrox Vayne version, which I am okay with. The 1 health units are a bit fragile in this format, as everyone is looking to really focus in on Samira, Fizz, and Jinx Kennen. A lot of 1 health units across the board. You get kind of incidentally annihilated by the opposing decks battling those when you're trying to run the full numbers of Fleet Feather Trackers and Blinding Assaults. And so we've kind of toned down our numbers in that sense with the trackers and the assaults, but they're still here. because as we will play against something like another Vayne deck, we'll play against stuff like Jax Ornn, we'll play against stuff like Elites. Having access to the Birds plus Dark and Harp combo is just incredibly powerful, and so I didn't want to cut it out completely. The big things to call out with this deck, though, we are playing the 3 copies of Steadfast Elkin, fantastic card in the Jinx Kennen match. Just having that 2 health tough unit in the early game can just completely neuter all of their offense. Very, very powerful here. And then we're playing a single copy of the Darkened Fan as we play against these Jinx matchups, having the opportunity to maybe gain 4 health off of a Darkened Fan and 2 health off of Aatrox can really pull you out of that burn range. And it's those little incremental advantages that will, at the end of the day, be the strength we're looking for. Last but not least, we're playing Jinx Kennen. Very different from the Jinx deck we played before. I had loaded up a list of Jinx Kennen that I wasn't entirely happy with. It was a much more all-in version than we're playing here today. Didn't have nearly as much value generation in it, and I was ultimately unhappy with it. And so from that previous version, we've cut out the scrap heaps, we've cut out the flame chompers, we've changed the flame chompers into boom baboons, and we're also playing both the Kennens and the Yordle Squires here today as the tools to generate those extra cards for us to be discarding. And so no birds in this deck, just Forged Chiefs and Yordle Squires here in the cheap space. Over in the spells, there is a bit of flex opportunity with these cards. We're playing a single copy of Timewinder and a single copy of Bandle Tellstones. Both of these are just highly powerful situational cards, with the Bandle Tellstones capable of generating the good removal in the Harpoon, the Combat Trick, or the Yordle Contraption, which can be used to blow up an opposing Sump Monument or something. You get a lot of value out of the Tellstones. And then the Timewinder is our kind of mirror match power card. If you're able to get a 2-for-1 off of this, very good deal. And so those are the decks. That's what we're doing battle with today. Before we jump in, though, you know what we got to do. We got to go and pay that pay-to-win price. And I was surprised that we had one. We do. It's that Timewinder that we were just talking about. We haven't haven't been playing too much Timewinder in the space of Constructed, but now that we've got it premium, now that we've got it locked and loaded and ready to go, I have very high expectations for what it's going to do for us today. So let's get in here. The arcade scouts, we got the birds, we got the Jinx back with her friend Kennen. See if we can't find ourselves some good matches. Ooh, so these things are tough, man. As I said, you know, we had that match with Mage and Bay yesterday. You run into a lot of these top cut boards. Henneke, another fantastically strong player. So let's see how this goes. I'm gonna just come in and ban out the Nidalee Jinx deck. And so this strikes me as kind of being like, Ekko Nidalee. It strikes me as being kind of like Ekko Jinx. That's just that real like control heavy deck that I don't really want to be dealing with. Otherwise, we're fine to be playing the match into Jinx, and then we are kind of weak to Aatrox. We'll have to see how these matches play themselves out. We really want to run our scouts into the Jinx Kennen deck because Jinx Kennen is going to be fairly weak against Aatrox Vayne. But if we get the matchup we want here, we're going to feel pretty good about this. And so, see how it goes down. Looked like he queued up the Jinx Kennen first. There we go. There's those boards I was talking about. the top cut board. We can't use it with this deck. We got the Arcade Misfortune and the Arcane Gwen, or the Arcane Quinn, and so you gotta use the arcade board when you're bringing all those friends down. But you know, it's a meta decision that I'm willing to make. But as far as this matchup goes, Mirai Warden is the most important early game card that we're going to find. Let us 2-for-1 his early plays. We really want to find our 1-drops. We want to find our Mirai Wardens. Just whatever we can do to prevent the incoming damage from the opponent. But reasonable enough stuff here. He open attacked with the Squire, so it's not a ton of damage coming at us. No play this turn. That's interesting. See how this goes. We have a ton of misfortunes. I'm going to go ahead and run around. This is the spot to where, like, I'm a little curious if this is wrong. Like, I'm okay if he plays a spell and comes in and blows up our misfortune. That's completely fine. It's the thing that we have is Make It Rain in hand. And Make It Rain is so incredibly good in this matchup. It's capable of just blowing up so many of the opposing units. I'm kind of curious if we shouldn't have just played it a little bit slower and then tried to just maybe use Make It Rain next turn. We'll see. We'll see if we regret it. Alright, and another Island Navigator. I think we're going to try and get the Make It Rain down this turn. I'm going to look to... we'll add in the Grumble Slug, and then we'll kind of see what the opponent does. I'm fine with going into next turn and taking a 3-bank if they just don't attack. Like, that sounds pretty fantastic for us. And then... I think as we kind of go into this next round,
Nice to meet you.
we have the Make It Rain if we need it. Looks like he's going to kill our Misfortune. This is completely fine, though.
Yeah, an even bigger weapon.
He's getting pretty far behind in terms of card advantage.
I'll be damned.
All right, so I don't think we go for the Misfortune. I'm gonna just send in the Island Navigator, try and get these scout attacks in, wear down the opposing board a little bit. We have a lot of just like 1 health units at this point. You know, we are at risk of Jinx coming down and just blowing up our board, and so I would like to come in and try and get some trades before we just lose all of our dudes to a Death Rocket.
Just you and me,
There's Jinx.
Bones. And then defensive stance.
I don't think he can block. It's too scary to have your Jinx get blown up by a +2/+2. But he's most certainly setting up this Death Rocket. I mean, you know what's coming, right? He's got the Jinx on board.
Do scuttlers think we walk sideways?
Ocean Mara.
Alright, so I think we're okay. Like, it is scary that the Death Rockets are going to start rolling through. Surprised to see this be an attack. I thought he was going to play a Death Rocket for a clear and then try and attack afterwards. But we're going to be building up to a Vanguard Sergeant making a 4 Demacia and then playing 4 Demacia next turn. So on next turn, we can have 10 mana. And so I'm just going to drop the Vanguard Sergeant. I'm going to drop the Misfortune. He's going to AoE away our board. That's okay. And then we can look to have Misfortune, the Scout units, and the 4 Demacia down next turn. This is a safe pass as well. We can let this rocket come through. Like, if he wants to pass the turn without rocketing away our units, then that does feel pretty good. Now, I guess the real question, though, is we were talking about playing the Island Navigator, since we do have access to Misfortune in the Scouts, but what if we either don't play 4 Demacia this round, and then look to Petricite Broadwing down the Jinx? I think if we come in and try and get her off of the board, that's going to be the biggest thing that we can do this round. And so my major concern is that we play the Island Navigator, and then he immediately discards his hand, and then gets rid of one of the units. So I don't think I particularly like that. So we can take this a little bit slower. We can still get our scouts on board. We're just not going to have the big bonus from 4 Demacia. This can be rough in terms of generating Death Rockets. Has that 4-cost Clockling in hand that draws another card.
The ocean charts our course.
Ooh, we hit a 2-health unit. Very good. There's the Death Rocket.
All monsters die.
We'll send him in. The Death Rocket is a little awkward in the sense that once he plays the rocket, the Broadwing's only going to have 2 health. The 2 health isn't enough to take down Jinx, but we can still just use the 4 Demacia to... I'm sorry, use the form up to get the Jinx off of the board. Hopefully. There shouldn't be any 1-mana burn spells that he's able to play here. Oh, he's just got a Mecha Yordle in hand anyways. Right, so I think we're okay in this space, right? It's a little scary with the Mecha Yordles that could be coming in, but I think we should be reasonably safe here.
Oh, I've never met anyone
Oh,
like
that's
you.
scary, hitting a can't block unit. That's how you end up losing these games.
Back it down.
I know what I'm doing.
So if we can't fall to 3, that's just too dangerous. We should still be fairly strong next turn. I mean, we're gonna have Quinn. We have the 4 Demacia. We have a ton of units that we can still add to the board. So, still feels okay. Just as you fall to 3, you die to too many burn spells.
Away! To me!
Alright, well. Shell Shocker isn't the premier unit, but he gets the job done. He's gonna get so many blockers now. It's kind of a bummer. Let's do it this way. Let's hook in the Flame Chompers, so if his last card is a Mystic Shot, he doesn't get to kill our Valor. I don't think he's gonna have a way out of this with that last card in hand, but it's just a little bit safer this way. Got him. Hope y'all did some cheek squeezing there. This is getting
Now
close.
let's get back out there.
Getting close. Right, so now we just got to pick up one of these 2 matches with the old Aatrox Vayne. See what we can do. I think he queued up the Jinx Kennen again. There we go. Now we have the competing boards, right? Okay, so against Jinx Kennen, I'm fine to hang on to these 2 1-drops. I want to find an equipment to go with this. That would be the next ideal thing. Didn't find one, but having all of these 1-drops along with a Badger Bear is a pretty reasonable opener against these decks. I'm going to lead off with the Fleet Feather Tracker. There's not a ton of stuff in the early game that I really want to come in and just trade with. Excuse me, Forge Chief is something I'm fine with.
Need clearance, pal.
We're going to have to get into combat with that one. So we'll just let the turn go. Should kind of advertise that we don't have any equipment in hand, which is a bit of a bummer, but it'll all work out. Now the spear turns up. Beautiful. Beautiful. So he discarded the 1-1. We'll add our Elkin in first just to try and get in front of it. Didn't need it. Now let's see how this goes. We do have the equipment this time. See if he drops like a smash and dash on us. That would be a bit of a bummer, but looks like we made it through the scary part. I'm curious what that would be. You usually just take like the cheapest unit coming off of these squeakers, and so if he didn't have a smash and dash and he didn't hit a 3-3, he must have just gotten kind of stuck with an expensive blow or something. But see, this is why I'm all about these Elkin, right? This block's complete garbage. We still have good blocks in the face of his units. Everything about this looks pretty good. Oh, there's Smash and Dash. Interesting. Block. Interesting. Just like he would have been so good last turn. Curious what the angle there was, if he just needs more discardy stuff or something. Right, well, rip to the bird. Let's see what we can do now. Get the Broadwing into the Badger Bear. Don't really need to be dropping the Darkened Spear on this board. And I think we want to hook the Kennen at this point. He's one of these odd characters that you don't always want to be hooking in, but we have the Badger Bear on board ready to just block this augmented clockling, and so what I envision as being, you know, the potential for a bad block next turn is if we like block Kennen and then he blowbacks a unit. I mean, I guess at the end of the day that's fine. Not losing out on too much if that's what actually comes in and happens, but it's tough. Alright, Bird's in. He's doing some discardy stuff. We're gonna hang on to this Cataclysm until either opponent plays Jinx, or if we have a scout unit. Alright, well I guess that was some of the argument to take the augmented clockling down. We did get nuggeted for 3 points of damage there, but
Demons walk among us, masquerading as
I
men.
wasn't anticipating the Boom Baboon hooking our Badger Bear out of combat. Combat time, lose the Vayne, that's okay. We've got the very big board out here. The tumble onto Badger Bear is lethal at this point. Maybe we should have hung onto the Vayne, given how strong our hooks are. Or I'm sorry, given how, like, you know, we don't have a lot to do anymore, and so if we're just going to tumble every turn, we'd have Vayne out here generating the cards. I think we might have, well...
Everyone goes boom!
Interesting. I wonder if he has 3 Jinxes in his hand. He just sent a Get Excited to the face. Interesting. Like, I would think at this point he would want to just play the next Jinx.
Just you and me.
Oh, there she is.
And them.
Here's the way to go about this. We'll put the Striatu on the board and then Cataclysm him into Jinx. I almost loaded up the I was like initially seeing the potential out here to just like load up a Steadfast Elkin, but that's not the way to do it, right? We'll just take the big Striatu attack.
We're doing it!
Are we just dead? We are. Came down to that. It came down to that that Flame Chomper's block to take the unit out of combat. F. Oh no, we're at 4. Oops. Did we GG that one a little too early? That's my bad. I didn't mean to be mean. I thought that we were dead. As much as I trash on dropping the good games too early, I feel kind of bad now. Feel kind of bad. But we just have to squad. You can't let him play a Flame Chompers here, or play a Electro Harpoon. Whew. So Henneke, if you're watching, I feel bad. I didn't mean to hit the GG button that fast. I legitimately thought we were dead. But victory achieved and unlocked. GG. Sorry for the BM. Move on to the next one. All right, on to the next one. Hope y'all are doing okay out there. It's fucking hot. I saw a thing on the weather a couple days ago that Kansas City was rivaling Phoenix in terms of the heat index, and so we got up to a nice 114-degree heat index a couple of days ago. It's fucking bonkers. It makes me feel bad, man. Like I saw a news story about people in the Phoenix area, somewhere in Arizona, to where the burn unit was getting filled up because people were like falling down on asphalt. And like when you roll around on the asphalt for a little bit and it's 115 degrees outside, you just get burnt. And so, you know, if you're like an old person and you tripped and fell and you're kind of stunned for a bit or whatever, Like, not only were you kind of fucked up from falling down, but you just got burned. And then there was also things about like EMS workers. And so if you had to like attend to a person on the ground and you were down on your knees, and there was just like a opportunity for yourself to just get burned. It was very wild hearing about that stuff. But okay, into this next one. This is along the lines of what I was kind of expecting to see more of in this format. If you take the Nasus Senna out of the mix, I'm really expecting kind of like Heimerdinger Jayces and Karma Setts and Fizzes to be running the world, but I haven't seen too much of it in this format. I don't know if it's because of the coin change that people aren't playing Karma Sett, but Karma Sett was the kind of classic deck that has a good matchup against Samira Fizz, and so I'm surprised that we haven't been seeing more of it. But nonetheless, we're going to take the stupid Nasus decks out of the mix. You saw that in our preview. That's the #1 deck that we're going to be banning. I'm okay enough to be playing against Heimerdinger Jayce. It's not particularly ideal, but it's a much more winnable matchup than playing against Nasus. Nasus is probably like a 75% favorite over Scouts, but I think Heimerdinger Jayce is going to be like slightly unfavored for all of our lineup. It's probably hang on to the Mirai and look for other cheaps. It's probably like 55-45 in Jayce's favor against our entire lineup, and you know, that just kind of is what it is. I'm not willing to invest like upgrading our deck list to be a coin flip against this thing. Just not worth it. Alright, so let's lead off with the Mirai Warden. We can come into this next turn and just play Form Up if we need to. And so if we say add the Petricite Broadwing and then opponent next turn has a Shock Blast, we can kind of get away from the Shock Blast with the Form Up. He spent some mana now, so it's not as relevant. We can just come in with the Badger Bear instead. But going with the 2-drop into 2-drop into Form Up would have been okay. Now that he's well below 6 mana on this next turn, we'll just play on curve with the Badger Bear.
I help when I can. Shut up when I can't.
Now Misfortune turns up. Trying to think, like, this deck doesn't usually play Calling Strikes, right? They will play Aftershock, but they don't play things like Calling Strike. Let's just wait. We can protect Misfortune next turn with Form Up from pretty much the entirety of the deck. And so if we just add Badger Bear here, and then next turn play Misfortune with some safety, and then 2 turns away play Quinn, that sounds like a winning proposition to me. So I'm just going to Aftershock our Badger Bear. Stick shot, okay. Sure.
I'm one of the good guys, but not
Alright, let's see what comes in. Is it the Vengeance? Is it a big 6-mana spell? Soul Harvest. Just curious if they are playing this thing. So this should be good. Like, if we roll into this next turn and now he has to say Vengeance, Misfortune, we're able to get pretty far ahead. Interesting. You can't Vengeance now, he's only going to have 5 mana next turn. And then he no attacks. So I would suspect he doesn't have like damage-based removal in hand. Like, if you get to take Misfortune down to 2 health, you get to start killing her with Mystic Shots and High Notes, and so he could have attacked with the Scrap Trap to put Misfortune at risk a little bit. There's the Aftershock. Okay.
I'll be damned.
Alright, did too much damage to be giving up on here, so we'll go ahead and hook in the Scrap Trap. See if we can't, on this upcoming turn, do something to where we play the Broadwing, we play the Shell Shocker, and then we Cataclysm Quinn into something small. Nope. Okay. It was worth a shot, you know. It was worth a shot. How do we do this? Let's lead in with the Mirai,
Nice to meet you. I'm Isla.
follow up with the Broadwing, then play Shell Shocker into Inspired Light. Then we'll be open attacking next turn. So weird, he hasn't played any of the expensive spells this game. Alright, Shell Shocker in. Get inspired. As Michael Scott would say, a good manager doesn't fire. A good manager hires and inspires. Now you know. You're welcome. You're welcome for that little nugget. Alright, well we got Lethal on board here. He only hit the one unit off of his turret thing. So send in the squad. Hook onto the turret. He has to block with the scrap thing. He's going to block a 3-power unit, so it's not like we're going to be protecting our Broadwing by hooking in the 3-mana dude. Just doesn't have it. Nice. See? Told you that matchup was winnable. Opponent had, I wouldn't call it a bad draw, I don't feel like. I feel like they probably just had something a little bit more awkward than they wanted. Didn't have that big spell on turn 3. The thing I need to get more familiar with Heimerdinger Jayce is I'm not certain if they're playing stuff like Ruination. Like, I know you have access to it because you're playing Reggie, but is it a card that they just kind of play in general? Super certain on that. But here, Electro Harpoon's not particularly strong in this match. I think we'll go ahead and just cycle it away. It has some merit to it, given that opponents' units are all like 3/3s. And so if we have to just attack our 2/1s into their 3/3s, then we have a chance to just come in and take those off of the board. But
Got this from a side quest.
no, I'm not excited about that.
Not a hero, right?
And then I'm gonna go ahead and send in the unit there. I want to be able to play Squeaker this turn and attack. And so if he has Reggie, it kind of is what it is. We can't get in that way. But if this is his only unit for the turn, then he can't block our Squeaker effectively. Now with those, I just took the cheapest unit, right? I went for the Fury Horn Crasher. It's a strong unit as it is in this space. It takes a strong removal spell to get it off of the board. Whoa, did not expect this block. But we'll see what happens. Curious if he's gonna avoid falling below Aftershock mana. So let's just play our kind of quote unquote bad units, if you will. I'm gonna come out with the Boom Baboon. Gonna come out with the Zonite Urchin, and then next turn we'll look to maybe get the Crasher and the Squeaker on board. Can't block that though. Wrench, cool. Good draw, probably about the best draw we could hit. Now, I'm not completely opposed to going like a little bit off in terms of not just taking the cheapest one, but we're gonna be like adding the Jinx to the board here pretty quickly, and so I don't think we want to be going for Shadow Tech Walkers. There is a minor difference between the Crasher and the Smash and Dash, and the Smash and Dash doesn't just die to Aftershocks and stuff, but it is a little bit more expensive. I think we'll just go with the Chaser. Okay. It's a 2/2, right? I'm scared of that. Now we get those juicy stats running into our deck. That feels good. That feels good, man. As your opponent's out here trying to play Mystic Shots and stuff, putting the bonus stats in the deck is kind of nice. I'm just going to go ahead and take this thing down. I'm going to hit it with an Electro Harpoon. So let's do this. Let's add in the Crasher. Got the 3 mana behind. We'll look to Vandal Tellstones into Electro Harpoon and kill this thing. This is going to get us right on track to doing mean things with Jinx. You gotta wait and see what we draw. It's a little scary to just drop her on the board. We don't have a ton of value just coming directly from Jinx, but do we ever want to add in the Squire? It's just too easy for him to have something like a production surge. So this is a kind of scary space, right? This is probably the last points of damage we'll be doing in terms of these combats. Holy shit. Okay. I was really expecting to come into this turn and then opponent play like a Mystic Shot and a Heimerdinger, right? That would have been exceptionally tough for us to deal with, but
Looking for a hero for my hero.
wow, not the way it went down. Production surge right here is still pretty nasty, but wow.
If it's a people problem, I'm your man.
We have the exact 10 mana it takes to get everything on board. Still can't generate the Death Rocket, though. Oh shit, I forgot we're getting the Flame Chompers in hand. Let's just go ahead and spend all the mana down to the 3 bank. Maybe we'll get enough after this to start doing stuff with Jinx. This has just been such a weird set of games. Eradicate. Okay. Did that come off of the... Yeah, it came off the fancy one. So now it's a little dangerous, right? We can't burst speed a Jinx flip if we want. We can just get rid of the Returno Wrench, which is probably just what we're stuck doing here. It's just ultimately too dangerous to play Jinx and not even get a Death Rocket out of it. So, just make the discard. God, you're so dead, aren't you? We still got to run it out, but
To the count of
she's not long for this world.
just you and me, Fishbones, and them.
Yep. Eradicate. I didn't see that one coming. I'm still okay with picking like the turtle shell instead of the attack, right? The plus attack would have gotten around Eradicate. I'm curious if we shouldn't have just gotten Jinx on board last turn. Like maybe put ourselves in a spot to where we're generating Death Rockets, or like not necessarily generating Death Rockets, but being in a spot to where we can open attack. No, we got it. This game has to be done, right? Just double Reggie into an empty hand. Yeah, I don't like this. I'm not saying that we would win this game, but I don't like how that Eradicate turn went.
I'm your man.
I didn't stop to think that we were got to be picking up the Boom Baboon into our hand, and it's so tough though when you like just don't have the discard to where you have to just kind of sit on it. You know?
Come on, Nugget. We got places to be.
What? Pick up a Mystic Shot. If we hit a Jinx, we can find a Death Rocket that way. Double Mystic Shot, another fun way to maybe win a game. And so,
Hop in.
and that's not over. No, it's almost over. That second Hextech handler getting the stats up's kind of nasty. What? Jinx? Right? Jinx? Wrong. Okay. GG. Yeah, I mean that's always tough. Like so much of these late games come down to like whether you can stick a Jinx, and I'm wondering if we were kind of like too far away from the Death Rocket plan, and we should have had in mind that we'll just get this flipped Jinx on board, and then either opponent has like a True Shot Barrage and they 3-for-1 our board, or they have the Eradicate and kill everything that isn't Jinx, or they do have a vengeance and they kill Jinx, and we still just have a massive board there. And with like getting a 2-draw out of her and then going into the next turn with a with some units on board just seems like way better than what we did. You know, just like being like herder, you know, it's turn 9 and our singular play is Jinx into a death rocket. That just doesn't feel like a winning path. All right, though, on to the next one, up against Karma Sett. I want to discard something. I want to get like a little bit more strength on this board. I like being able to drop the 3 1-drops, but we need to find like a bit of cycle, right? If our next 2 draws are just like Jury Rig and another 1-drop, that's not like super ideal. Rid of Boom Baboon. All right, well, the Squires are ready for action. This is another spot where we got to think about taking the shells. Like they have a lot of AoEs and a lot of like just small units that we'll end up wanting to protect. So
Come on, people. Let's make tomorrow
see, we'll take the
today.
1.
Ready, Hammer?
See how this goes. Like Mystic Shot's fine. I'm gonna say we are getting to the point you can't play an AoE this turn. You could play one next turn, which is slightly scary. We really need to hit a discard. Harpoon is a discard, not the one I was particularly wanting, but it does something at least. All the wrenches. This is just not good. This is not good.
Treasure! I'm ready!
Stuff here. Like, if he adds in the 3/4, our turn is just pretty much done. But if he plays the AoE, our turn is pretty done as well. There it is. And so I think that's a pretty good outcome. Getting 2 spells for our 3 units, like that is not a good Caustic Rift that he just pulled off. And so I think that's okay. We're still running into problems with how garbagey our hand is now, but like a single what do you call it? Parts made whole will do an incredible number on this board. We do that? Yeah. Yeah. Sucks. It sucks so much. This is why I was really worried about that opener, right? As you can run into these draws to where you just pick up a bunch of 1-drops and you can't really compete. Just gotta find card advantage somewhere. Jury Rig, you're not it. You are not it.
I have studied every fighting manual.
Well, we'll try to deal a point of damage. I'm not seeing it.
Whip up anything special for tonight?
This is just gonna get savaged from here out.
Cherries.
So this is what I get. I don't get why people aren't playing Karma Sett, right? This is a very real deck. It's just not seeing any real numbers out here.
Something I said.
We gotta have something go right
Gonna
at this
need a
point, though.
doctor.
And we have a Mystic Shot into Sett now, but I mean, it just doesn't really feel even worth it. And tag out. I mean, I guess a tag out onto Sett feels kind of nice for us and doesn't give any heal like the Mixologist does, but bummer. And just trying to think back on that opener and how much of it we should have actually kept. It's tough, right? Because I mean, we play 12 ones, and so maybe the angle there is just keeping 1, and then assuming you're gonna like mulligan into another one along the way. It's just as you run into those games and we just didn't draw any of the the kind of card advantage half of our deck. We didn't hit any Squeakers. We didn't hit any Parts Made Whole. Electro Harpoon is not good in that match, and so it's fairly tough there. I have been kind of considering playing the 3/2 Mecha Yordle that generates a spell shielded Mecha Yordle, and like I haven't quite brought myself to it because like as decks like Karma Sett have kind of fallen out of favor, and we're planning on playing most of our matches against Jinx, Kennen, and Samira Fizz. The having like cards like that don't feel as impressive, but as we run into games like this one where it's just like pure nothing happening, you kind of reconsider it. But that's at least like kind of the perk of playing Bandle Tailstones. Like there's not, you're never going to be super excited to play Bandle Tailstones into Contraption to generate 2 multi-faction units, but I mean it's at least a way to get some card advantage in those times when you really need it. So it's interesting. All right, queued into the same dude. Everybody takes the same bands. We'll lead off with Scouts again. See how this one goes. See if we can't get the Vengeance round or if we get shut out by Karma Sett twice. Leading with it. It says Karma Sett coming at you. Gonna counterspell your champion's strength. But all right, I cycled away the Fleet Feather Tracker. There's just nothing in the opposing deck that Fleet Feather Tracker favorably combats, and so just look for another card advantage unit or something with a little bit more impact than just a tiny bro. Island Navigator, more along the lines of what we're wanting to find. Now here, I do want to play around a Caustic Rift a little bit if we can. And so I'm going to go for the Broadwing, or look to add in Mirai Warden this turn. See if we hit a 2 health unit. Bristlehog fits the bill. He's not an exciting one by any means, but he does what we're needing, surviving the Caustic Rift this turn. So I wouldn't be surprised to see like a Rift Mystic Shot come in and we only deal a point of damage. But okay. I guess that worked a bit. And then we've still got some mana banked up if we draw an Inspired Light or something.
Dangerous water.
Oh my gosh, we're getting riffed so hard next turn. just say, hey Bust, what's the most obvious thing that's gonna happen in 2023? That's us getting hit with the Caustic Rift this turn. Curious if he takes this 4 or drops it right now. Yeah, right now. So with that out of the way, it's kind of interesting in the sense of, do we want to get this Misfortune on board, or do we want to go for the Badger Bear? I'm leaning towards just going for the Misfortune. If she gets popped by an Aftershock or something, it's not really the end of the world. We still get to punch in for 5 damage if he plays a big single target removal onto Misfortune, so I think she's okay. It's kind of like what we were talking about in that game a few rounds ago, to where we potentially had a chance to play that like end of turn Jinx, and then opponent has to decide if they want to kill your Width and the Jinx gets to survive, or kill the Jinx and you get to keep your Width. It's a very similar state with that board, as to where he can kind of deal with one, but he can't deal with both.
Coin buys drink or news. I've got both.
All right, Genevieve, not a bad addition. We'll add Quinn this turn, bring in the Genevieve next turn, see if this big mountain of stats can do something for us.
Our stuff's top notch.
How willing are we to let this Quinn get hit with a... it just can't be worth it. We have a good hook onto the Mixologist with Genevieve next turn. It's just like, If we take the Mixologist to 1 health, there's a chance we can just kill it with Misfortune and then have a safe hook with Valor after that, but
I'll defend these points to the end. We will defend them
it's
to
just
the
like
end.
as we set that play up and he blocks and tags out the Mixologist, it just doesn't sound good.
You'll pay. Scouting ahead.
Alright, let's send in the Scout attack. Wouldn't be surprised to see like a concussive palm onto Quinn or something here, and then if they just don't have it, then we're looking pretty good.
I make it my business to know the odds.
Interesting.
Time for violence.
Alright, well, Scout's putting in the work.
I'm sorry.
Well done, Team Arcade. I knew you had it in you.
Fortune smiles.
That's a tough one. Like that's as we're talking about champion strength extensively in these games. That's one of those matchups where you're like, you don't really want to have to play it. It feels so much better when you're just like, here's a 4 Demacia, right, that we just generated, and maybe we get to play another unit with. Just giving up the entirety of your turn for your champion strength and having your opponent take it down with a deny is just so painful.
Anything else?
Okay, well, big aggro start here. That's for certain. Get that.
Anything else?
Jury rig on board on turn 1. Jury rigs everywhere. So what do we got? Not a particularly strong set here. I don't want low dipper. Trumpet Techer is typically like a bait. We might get a good Trumpet Techer this game, but I think we just have to kind of go for the higher impact unit here. We're gonna spew this hand off very quickly. So I kind of like taking him over the say like the 2/5 elusive. Reggie. Okay.
It's an awesome day for progress.
Finders sharers.
And we're gonna have a big board for the Trumpet Techer at least.
Watch it
We're gonna
go.
lose a couple of dudes here. Get a couple points in. Still keeping him on the back foot, but we get to play at least 3 units on this next turn, and then have the Trumpet Techer have a full board again on turn 5. How hard do we even want to go for that, right? We're definitely going to squeaker into the Flame Chompers. The Flame Chompers getting hit with Trumpet Techer lets us get the good hooks into, like, Reggie. So I'm good with that. I think we want Professor Von Mech. So it just lets us keep doing stuff, right? We don't have a Jinx at this point.
I have mastered the rain, lightning, and cloud styles.
Alright, so we aren't going to be using the Kennen discard, but the pop off big next turn. Don't need to drop the Jury Rig right now. There's like a 97% chance we're just going to open next turn with it, but we can wait and see what turns up. Alright. And Eradicate, right? do we have to deal with that nonsense again? I wonder if, like, that's just like such a random hit. I don't think these decks actually play Eradicate. It's just something that Reggie can generate. But I wonder if we should have just like left the Jury Rig at home and then put the bonus stat onto Kennen. And so if he is capable of like attacking our width there, or attacking us with an Eradicate, we still have 2 units on the board at the cost of a point of damage. And we just have like the infinite value train if we want it. If the Kennen survives and then we get to Lightning Rush back Professor Von Mech.
I help when I can. Shut up when I can't. Looking good, Nug. Hop in.
Alright, well, we got pretty close to lethal with the dudes on board. The tiny spear, our smallest bro, our weakest bro, if you will. Send in the remainder of the squad. Gotta feel good seeing the formula come down. I think we did it. Alright, GG. The vengeance game has been won. Not taken down 2 in a row by old Gnu. On to the next one. Alright, back in the queue. We can start talking about the weather again. So, just gotta feel bad for so many people, man. People work outdoors. Your various laborers, your lawn people, your postal workers, the Amazon folks, making sure you get your overnight deliveries of bullshit you don't need. So, that sucks, man. The thing I hated the most in my youth was I used to work at a grocery store. And so as like the lowest guy on the totem pole, they would always make you be the one that had to go out to the parking lot and push all the buggies back in. And it was just the fucking worst in the summer. 95, 100 degrees outside, trying to push a bunch of carts back inside. You did usually get to go and sit in the dairy cooler after that. The bonus thing with the dairy cooler is that's where all of the air quote damaged ice cream was. And so you typically go back there and get you an ice cream treat after you ran all the buggies back in. But I don't know if that was worth it. I don't know if that was a worthwhile bonus. Maybe Ben and Jerry would disagree, but whew, this stuff sucked. All right, the next battle is here, and this will just ban out this Norra Gnar deck. I'm not entirely certain what's happening with this coming out of Bilgewater, but we're happy enough to be playing both the Samira Fizz and the Jinx Kennen matchups, and so we'll get that nonsense out of here. Is that just it's not like a transform deck. I'm curious what that actually is. Lead off with scouts. Alright, so what do we want to do here? I think we'll get rid of the form up. Like, I definitely like the Fleet Feather Tracker and the Mirai Warden here. We want to be finding our interactivity packages, but form up is one of the few things that lets us, say, block a 3-3 favorably. Nice pickup in the Badger Bear. It's very good at blocking elusives. If you read his text, you can block units with elusive. If ye be friend, then ye are welcome here. But woe to any who intrude upon this realm with evil in their heart, for they shall taste the vengeance of its mighty protector. Dude. Ooh, listen to him. Protect us from the fizzes, my friend. Do your blocking. Do your blocking. Is he really thinking about this? He's probably just reading the text on Fizz. Of all of Bilgewater's legendary figures, Fizz is the most mercurial. Look at you, Riot, using big words. Always, I love that there's a scene in Eastbound and Down that's a fantastic program on HBO. It's Danny McBride and his foray into professional baseball. And that's one of the things he does. He gets into an argument with his family, and They're just yelling at him, and he's saying stuff like, "You're saying big words that I don't understand, so I'm gonna take that as an insult." And then he just keeps yelling at him, because if he stops yelling, that means that he's lost the argument. We're going to Shaboom's. That's the strip club, so. Fantastic. I fully recommend the first season. It has its moments after the first, but I don't give it my full recommendation after that. I just give it the first one. I've watched it the whole way through a few times. I really appreciate the work of Danny McBride, but if you're not really into his style, Danny McBride certainly has a singular style to his acting performance, and
Hello, new best friend.
I get it if it wears off on you or if it's not your thing. All right, reasonable enough turn this round. Getting a nice board going, getting that Fizz out of the way. We'll have the blocking Badger Bear for whoever comes down next turn, be it more Fizzes, be it a Father Fury, whatever's coming in. I think that's the route we want to go. We're kind of looking as this board develops, what are we going to do 2 turns from now? And we definitely want to Island Navigator Inspired Light, but we can do that like regardless, right? I think we should probably still just be getting the Badger Bear. Well, see, that's kind of tough, right? We have the opportunity to, say, like hook down the Fizz now, and then maybe play Badger Bear 2 turns from now. And so if he's going to try and, I don't know, play a Fleet Admiral Shelley or something, then we can get the Badger Bear on board and start blocking. But if we played Badger Bear on this turn, it's kind of ignorable. So let's go with the Broadwing so we can at least challenge down or threaten the opposing elusives on our attack token. I'm not going to play around Pirouette, though. We have such a strong attack next turn with the Island Navigator Inspired Light. Like, if opponent wants to take the time to Pirouette the Broadwing, it's okay, I guess. I mean, I guess the opening Pirouette's pretty good, right? If you deal a damage to a Shell Shocker and then stun the Broadwing. But we're still just going to go to the max with the Inspired Lights. Second Inspired Light, getting all the stats. Kind of a bummer with the Reborn Grenadier just being a shitter, but try to make the most of it. Sometimes I think I professionally hit the wings in the wave, and so the wings in the wave would actually be a lot better than the Reborn Grenadier in this space. So interesting. Still just want to load up the board with stats. Hey, dude, you can have a Badger Bear, you can have an Inspired Light. Inspired Light can be a little scary coming out of these decks, given that they can get fully wide. But the opponent only having 1 card at this point, I feel at least a little bit better about it. So is it worth to drop the second one now? I mean, it has to be, right? All of our units are capable of killing Badger Bear at that point. Get him down to 3. Got a pretty strong board. Pretty safe in the event that a Powder Pandemonium comes down next turn. You can still do it, but it's not going to be lethal. I got like a little worried. It's like, why would he play the stylish shot before he even attacked? It still doesn't make sense either way. I was like, is this a cheap Pirouette coming in to get the stun on the Badger Bear? But you could just do all that after the fact. So.
Smiles.
Okay. Alright. Samira Fizz dispatched by scouts. A little bit tougher for Aatrox Vayne. This one, the opponent can get ahead of what we're doing, and so the scouts matchup feels really good against both of those decks, but Aatrox Vayne doesn't feel bad. It's definitely the weakest of the three into these matches, I feel. Alright, so what do we got? I do like this Blinding Assault, Darkened Spear start. We can start kicking it off on turn 3, and he shouldn't be able to interact with it too well. So I think that's reasonable, even though we don't have any Elkin, right? Elkin are the big thing we're looking for here in the early game, but I think it's good enough to hang on to. No Fizz. Now, the thing I want to watch for is I don't really want one of these birds to get pirouetted. So if we can kind of find ourselves in a spot to where we can play the bird and then open next turn with a Darkened Spear, that would be fine. I mean, I guess as it is, we can't really get around it. But let's just slow it down. I'm gonna, like... I do like the idea of being able to protect these birds with the form up. If we protect a bird with a form up, we want to do it on our turn, right? Not on the opponent's turn, so we get the extra attack power out of this thing. Let's see. Like, I think if he pirouettes, I'm fine with just playing the second Blinding Assault and trying to take down Samira. We'll see what opponent thinks about that. Okay. Now, this is a spot to where I don't super like it, given that Parlay's fine. Given that these aren't his really high-value units, right? We're not completely upset about Samira. We're more so upset about the Fizzes and the Father Furies of the world. And so we would have been taking like a combat there that wasn't super ideal. But it is what it is. Now our mana's kind of fucked, right? I think we have to get a Badger Bear in. Like, he can kind of pick and choose how this goes. The spot that's worst for us here is if he flares Samira and then plays all out on Samira and takes down the blocking Badger Bear. But that does leave us with the Valor on board. And so, either way, the way I typically feel in this match, as long as opponents out here just like bullshitting around and spending mana and not killing you, then I feel pretty okay about it. And so, that angle with him like attacking with the all-outed Samira into the Badger Bear is what lets him, you know, kind of come in and cause problems. Oh, that was pretty choice. So what do we do in this round? We can get one unit on board. Like, I refuse to spend below form-up mana this turn. I'm not going to equip the Spear onto the Defector, but these attacks both look quite good now. Jeez. Okay. Let's see what kind of shenanigans we're in for. He's only got 3 mana at this point, but it always feels like with the Samira deck, she's capable of just like spewing off 5 spells with 3 mana, and so I think he's going to get at least 1 bonus on the turn. But I mean, we still have the means to take the Shelly and take the Fizz off of the board. Is that the angle we want to go? Like, we're definitely trading out the Valor this turn, but yeah, Samira's not, she's not going to flip this round. Let's get rid of the elusives. You did well, Valor, you did well. The finest of Quinn birds doing Quinn bird things. Darkened Fan. It's going to go nicely with this Blood Cursed Harpy.
Those who kill innocents are no more than fiends.
So in with Vayne. He doesn't have a Flare in hand right now, so we don't have to completely worry about Samira. But if we lose Vayne, it's not really the end of the world. I just like this idea. The thing that we're capable of doing next turn is playing the Harpy, loading it up with the Darkened Fan, and then we can get 3 attacks out of it. So we can attack with everybody. That's a normal attack. Then we can tumble the Blood Cursed Harpy. That is then our scout attack. We get the attack token back, and that should be enough to cause enough problems for the opponent. The problem is he's still got this Shelly on the board, and so even if we're out here doing all these cool attacks, he has the chance to make some really big units out here this round. And we're gonna have to throw away some dudes. I think it's okay though. We can't make that big play next turn. The thing we'll be okay with losing Vayne this round. Okay. Purple fish, interesting.
Back. I want.
I guess he needed the mana to get the Purple Fish on board. So do we want to even try and tumble next turn? We can just say Darken Spear Vayne, and then use Vayne to block the Coral Creatures. We can't tumble next turn, but we can tumble 2 turns from now. Okay. Like, given the size of his units, he should be able to
Say your prayers.
like kill the Blood Cursed Harpy in combat. Especially if we're loading it with the Darkened Fan. Don't think Giral is the answer here. Okay. The fuck did he get a... When did he swindle? It just was I busy talking and didn't see it?
Death it is.
Blink and you'll miss me.
Maybe we should have blocked her with the bird and just given up the equipment. Right, because now we end up losing the bird to the Coral Creatures. I just had in my head we really needed to gain this health this round.
No outsiders.
Try to keep up.
Well, he's got all the hooks. He's got the 3 damage of burn. Are we just dead here? He's got five cards in hand, 3 flares. If he can cast the other 2 cards, then we're, I guess, not technically dead, but we're pretty close to it. That was our mistake, though. We should have just blocked the Samira with the Blood Cursed Harpy, and she would have quick attacked away the equipment, then we would have punched her back for 6 or whatever. Now this game's just completely done. That was a silly play. So we attack with both. He can block 1 with Samira. Then we can't have that happen. We have to attack the Harpy. It's not a lethal, which is a bit of a bummer, but
Try to keep up. Blink and you'll miss me.
Barb Chain, not bad, dude. Not bad. Right, so he throws away Burblefish. Next turn, we get the block on the Samira. Oh, we're just dead. Okay. Yeah, that was stupid. That was dumb. I had, it was like I knew, I don't know. It's like I knew how exciting and awesome it was going to be to gain a few points of health off of that Darken equipment, but We should have just... I think we both equipped the wrong equipment, right? We should have put the Darkened Spear on it so that it would have been capable of surviving a hit from the 4-6. And then we also should have just blocked Samira and thrown away the equipment and gotten the takedown there. That was obnoxiously bad that we did that game that way. All right, but the chance for redemption, I think I'm fine with hanging on to all of this. This is kind of similar to that last game in the sense that we have access to this Valor along with an equipment that we can get on turn 3, and on turn 3 we can also like Aegis, Broadwing, and Blinding Assault. So like he plays a 1 here, there's nothing we can do about that. Oh boy, he doesn't even have a 1. But now on this turn we can play Broadwing. Oh my gosh, what are you doing? What are you doing, Kennen Jinx? Wow, I don't know what's happening with this hand. I don't know. It's going to say Electro Harpoon our Valor. Then we catch in the Aegis. Sure. Just a handful of burn, right? It's insane seeing this deck come out the gates with no units in the first 3 turns of the game. It has to just be like double Jinx, Mystic Shot, or something in hand. Wild, I tell you. So I'll take it a little slow with this mana. Like, I'm leaning towards, like, I want to play the Defector. Planning on just putting the Bloodletters on it because it doesn't really do anything else here. The question is, where do we want to put this Darkened Aegis? And... you know, it's always a good target with the Broadwing. It's kind of a very easily killable unit. But the blocking Badger Bear is gonna be getting some blocks in here soon. So see. Good. There's a potential problem of him shrinking the Broadwing to where it doesn't get the kill onto the Fury Crasher, but there should be he should be lacking in terms of damage, right? He needed a blowback to deal through the tough.
Just you and me, Fishbone.
It's wild being in these spots to where Aatrox doesn't even get to do any heal. Kind of just prevent every single point of damage this game. We're about to start playing Darken while we're at 20, right? And so let's just prevent all of it, prevent everything. We can look at this next turn to play Jaral and then use Jaral to hook in Jinx, which I'm pretty okay with. But there's no reason to come in and be taking this damage, even if we're going to be facing, like, even if we're going to be playing Aatrox, right? Just thinking on if he wants to, drop something there. Curious if he was going to try and blow back or something. That doesn't make any sense, right?
Remember, we're the ones who make progress happen.
Put some stuff on the board. I'm gonna go Elkin. I'm gonna Darken Bloodletters the Defector. I will attack with the Defector at that point. After the Defector attacks, then we'll bring in the Jaral. Why is he coming after our Badger Bear so hard? Is he just saying like, well, I gotta... What did he even discard? I missed it. Such a weird target. Oh, he's flipping Jinx for the Death Rocket. Gotcha. Okay.
Where is it?
Sure. It's not going to do much to these tough units, right? Not doing much to them.
Let's go, people!
See ya! Looking for a hero for my
Then we'll take trades wherever we can get them, right? I don't want him hitting us with the impact wrenches, so the trades here are pretty okay. I'm also kind of happy just to be getting this this darkened thing back in hand for bloodletters, so we can just turn it into Zolani a few turns from now.
I am lightning. I break the wind.
Double wrench, one card in hand. He needs more rummagey cycle kind of things to really pop off here.
Only war can bring me peace.
All right, the World Ender is at 10. We can do that one next turn. That's always a fun time, right? Pick up the additional Aatrox. I don't think we're going to be Deathbringer sweeping in this next turn, but 2 turns from now, I'm on board with that. His attacks now all suck. If he really wants to slam in for a couple points of damage, that's good. Alright. Victory unlocked. Victory achieved.
Yes, oblivion.
Yes, Oblivion. That was a very weird draw from opponent, though. They just ran... yeah, just, you know, not having anything to do until the 3rd or the 4th turn. Just had to have been like double Jinx, double Mystic Shot, along with that augmented guy or something. Just very odd and awkward draw. Alright. Back in the queue. Can't talk about the weather. The queue went too fast. But just like with the last match, we're more than happy to play against Samira Jinx. We're more than happy to play... Or Samira Fizz and Jinx Kennen. Those are good. We'll just ban out the Aatrox Vayne. And see what he leaves up. We'll say Scouts is probably the ban coming for opponent, and we'll fire off the Jinx Kennen and see if we can't start off with a sweet mirror match. Doesn't look like it. I think he picked up the Samira deck. All right. Interesting. And so powerful start in terms of removal spells. I think we'll hang on to the Mystic Shot and the Harpoon. Look for a discardable card here in the early game. The wrench turns up. Beautiful.
Anything else?
Get them aggros started.
Let me at 'em.
Coming at you, Fizz. Coming right at you. Oof. All right. He brings the coral creatures. We're not going to... Well... We could technically try and target down the Fizz, but I think this is probably just worth a pass, right? So if he wants to give Fizz the elusive, he has to play a spell. And if he has to play the spell, then we can kill Fizz with Mystic Shot. Say, otherwise, he's in a spot to where he just has to attack with that dude, and there's not really anything he can do. So now we can add in the Boom Baboon. Next turn, we're going to look to add in the Squire and the Squeaker and get it to as much attacking as we can. So So Squeaker coming in, just want the cheapest thing. Bouncer and Bolt's fantastic. Give us another challenger to potentially take down some of these units. Not too worried about Samira. Pick up the spear. The spear can be quite useful with the flame chompers. We can't do anything with it this turn, but on a future turn we might load up the spear onto the chompers, hook in a Fizz or something.
Back it up. No fear.
Says, uh-oh. This kind of sucks. This kind of sucks, Bust. Sending all these damages right at my nugget. Pretty close to lethal now, right? We got 5 burn in hand between the Mystic Shot and the Blowback. Kick it up to 7 with the Electro Harpoon. Alright. So I think we're good to just let this Samira do whatever Samira is gonna do. I think we're looking to just harpoon in onto the Father Fury. Kitty needed out. She looked weird. She had she was over here napping. That's the one that doesn't get into the videos, but she was over there napping, and her eyeball just looked funny, and I didn't know what the deal with that was. But then I gave her a pet, and it opened up, and she opened it. So I was like, well, I guess you're okay. You know, I guess everything's all fine and dandy out here. But alright, let's just let this attack go through. It's like if opponent has like an all-out or another copy of Samira to counter our Mystic Shot, we're gonna have a real problem there. And so, at least as this board stands now, we can get Bouncer and Bolt on board. We can hook 2 of these units out of combat, so we ought to be at least punching for 4. No parlays or anything coming in. I think we're good. So let's hook his weaker unit with the Coral Creatures. Let's hook Fizz in with the Bouncer and Bolt. So now if he wants to block, he has to block with Samira. Ideally loses all of his good units this way. But, ooh, swindling up the removal spells, huh? I dig it.
Make this interesting for me.
We just gotta deal a couple points. So Samira flips, and then he's bringing the Returno Wrench back into our hand. So it looks like we're still just lethal, but okay. Let's just let this happen. I don't want anything else happening in this combat. To where he's like, oh, I'm about to die, I better play another removal spell or something, you know? And now we're free to just play Blowback and finish the game off. Alright, game 1, victory achieved. Ooh, more exciting action with Aatrox Vayne. A little bit scarier, man. I wish we had a better one to bring in here. It's still good matches for us, but this is the one that always worries me. You get one of these awkward starts with like a 4-drop and an Aatrox and something like that, and you just get ran over super fast, and so it can be tough. But this is one of the matchups to where if we're able to pull off a bird with a good equipment, they don't have as many answers to our shutdowns here, right? Typically, if we're playing against Bandle City or something, they have a lot of burn spells. Or if we're playing against Kennen and Jinx, they have a lot of burn spells. Really attack the birds. Not so much of that coming out of Samira Fizz. I'm not certain on the amount of Samira Fizzes that are playing heavy metals these days. I'm not certain if that's something that will, cycle itself back around into popularity. But as it stands right now, we're not seeing too many of them. We'll play the Elkin. I don't think he's going to attack Fizz into the Elkin as is, but again, I want to be trading our Fleet Feather trackers for other elusive units, and so if he gives us the chance to say attack with Fizz into the Elkin, and then we get to use the Fleet Feather tracker later, awesome, right? But that's kind of the only turn we get to do that unless opponent decided to play a warning shot attack with Fizz on the first turn or something. Parlay, sure. Definitely rather see Parlay hit the Elkin than hit on the Fleet Feather Tracker. And then that was also a Parlay generated by Coral Creatures. Oh, Badger Bear right on time. You can say this is the kind of hand that can get problematic against the likes of Fizz, though, right? Our hand isn't particularly interactive. All of our units are very expensive at this point. And so we got to just kind of like throw down dudes and hope it's enough to force our opponent into combat. This Ranger Defector doesn't even have Scout at this point. But next turn should be a pretty decent equipment turn, right? In the sense that we'll play the Fleet Feather Tracker. We'll want to bank 2 for this form up going into the next round. And then it's like, if we have to, we can play Aatrox. That counts as playing an equipment, right? He comes on board with the World Ender. But if you get to finally find one of our Darken equipment and bring the equip in, would be a little bit more ideal. And a Harpy. Alright, let's see how nasty this Shelly can get. We don't have any other interactive tools here, but he played his Pirouette on the last turn to stop our Petricite Broadwing from attacking, and so he doesn't have the Pirouette. Well, I'm going to say he doesn't have the Pirouette ideally, but he had one turn up now. Might just be dead at this point. So what's going to happen next turn, right? Let's see. Hang on. Shelly's at 2. Assume he's going to have one more Shelly. I think we have to protect our bird. Alright, fine. Like, it's not doing anything this turn, but we can use it next turn to hook something in if we don't, or if we survive. Another bonus. Get you a blood-cursed Harpy, bro. Do you play 2 Swindles, or is that just 1 Swindle? Alright, he's got a blood-cursed Harpy number 1. Beguile. Alright. So let's block with the Fleet Feather Tracker. It's gonna get Challenger next turn, right? We're definitely playing a unit, but it's still susceptible to, like, if opponent randomed into a way to deal a point of damage. I just don't feel nearly as safe with that being our unit to be on the board.
Only war can bring me peace.
We'll add in Aatrox, gonna give us a little bit of buffer in terms of our health. Now we can at least make a scout attack with the Defector, maybe get something off board. I don't think opponent's gonna be doing too much blocking, right? He's not really in a position to be getting killed. And so it's like if he takes 4 damage to 4 damage, he's not gonna die. But I don't know, it's getting kind of close. That was expensive. So we know he's picking up 2 fresh cards, right? But he's got a Chum the Waters and a Blood-Cursed Harpy as his other ones. Wow, getting the Father Fury thing. Did not expect to see that. So now the question is, do we actually attack with our blocking Badger Bear, right? We're going to take this hook into Shelly 100% of the time. The thing with trading Badger Bear for Fizz is if he has another Fizz, he just gets to play it, and we've lost our only unit that can block him, but I think we're okay to threaten the lethal. The way that this is bad, I think the reason we'll pull this back is if he has an all-out, right? So say he has an all-out, then he gets to block the Badger Bear with the Tentacle and get the kill on it. So let's just go ahead and pull that one back. Hopefully we'll find something to ease our worries here, but that's a bit of a scary moment. Ooh, gets access to Cataclysm now. I don't think he can hit the World Ender. I don't know if the World Ender is blocked from that. That would be kind of interesting. I know he can't do anything with it, but manifest a non-champion card. Does that count as a champion card? Like, I know that Aatrox is a champion per se. Let's see what we can do. This shouldn't be lethal. You can do it. You can play like a warning shot and some stuff to get there, but like I don't think that should be lethal. Now we have some opportunities to finish this game off. So we can Cataclysm into Tentacle, the kill on it, and then make the Scout attack. Oof. I don't know, man. That's scary. Opponent had just like a massive pile of cards in hand there, but that illustrates exactly why this Aatrox matchup can go poorly, especially against Samira Fizz, in the sense that, you know, I feel like if we'd had a equipment there in the early game, everything would have just been golden. But you can have these things where you're like, oh, cool, I drew a 4-drop and an Aatrox and two Harpies, and then like a form up that we're not getting into combat with, and just a really big pile of awkwardness. Now, I feel like we have kind of teched into this match a little bit, adding in the extra birds and stuff, and adding in the life gain equipment, and you know we're just right on the verge of death in that game, right? And so those kind of things are there, but you definitely need to try and minimize those bad draws. Right, though. Cue ourselves into that final battle. See if we can't collect those 25 trophies. I was looking at the reward path earlier, and there's like no way to hit the 2 buys. You would have really had to have been hitting up Gauntlet through the entirety of the season to be even close. And so if we get to 1 buy, I think we'll be okay. I think I just need like 50 or 75 tokens or something, and we'll be there. And I think it's probably pretty doable over the course of the next few days, but definitely missing out on it. Alright, so what did he pick? We're starting off with the mirror match. That's completely fine. Reasonable enough hand here. Wish we had a little bit better kind of discardable stuff, but nothing wrong with this start. We could look to get rid of Electro Harpoon, but I like having just a touch of interactivity in here, and it's a decent play on turn 3 if we're looking to discard the Mark of the Storm.
Remember, we're the ones who make progress happen. We're working
I was thinking,
here.
it's like, do we ever want to just hold back and play the Electro Harpoon on the Forge Chief to keep the mana away from him? Like, we don't have a very value-heavy hand at the moment, right? We don't have the harpoons or anything, or we don't have the card generation, and so kind of taking that unit off the board is a little interesting, but Alright, so he harpoons onto our little dude, our little friend. Sad day for you. Let's go ahead and get this Kennen off the board now. Send that harpoon back to hand. Prevent the damages coming at us. So I mean, the opponent's only got 2 cards in hand at this point, so that's a big thing that happens in these spots. You know, he had the Returno Wrench, he had access to the Mark of the Storm, and didn't actually get to really favorably use that Mark of the Storm, and so now we'll get the discard on our Electro Harpoon, maybe push us a little bit into the advantage space.
I see you, and I see me. Wait,
one of us is talking?
He's gonna get the zing onto the scrap scuttler. All right, Kennen. You found your values in other ways, I guess.
Tomorrow today.
So do we care about him gaining the health? I mean, not really. Or gaining the mana. That's the one we should probably take down, though. In the Forge Chief. We can just Mystic Shock Kennen if we need to.
This is Tempest.
Alright, let's see who can draw the best cards off the top of their deck, am I right? I mean, it feels like we're at an advantage at this point. We've got more units on board. Like, everybody has 3 cards at this point. Oh, God. Kind of want our card back now.
The silent death.
Let's send it in. He never blocks here, which is too dangerous. He was the first one to draw Jinx. I mean, I don't know. It's tough for me to tell if opponent played this optimally or if they just kind of lucked into the best space that they could be in. But I don't know. It's like, oh shit. Let's just stop there. Tough to kind of figure out.
It's called gunplay.
Like, I don't want to just give up the entirety of our hand here. It's dangerous. It's dangerous doing it this way. But, like, what did he have going on the previous turn to where he wasn't able to generate a thing? Generate a death rocket. Let's see, he has to have a discard to get rid of the wrench. Oof. Oof, fam. I don't know how we got away with that one, but feels pretty good. It's pretty good. Why do you lock your wrench onto the flame chompers? I don't understand that.
Wind and thunder.
So he blows back onto Kennen. Not the hugest fan of this. Nope. Let's keep our units around, right? We're gonna get a Kennen back in hand, 2 dudes on board. His flame chompers is locked away. Makes sense with his wrench getting stuck on him if he had the second wrench, but I think we're looking good. More Kennens. Kennen's about to do the work. Let's just keep passing. We have 1,000,000 mana here, but we have the opportunities to actually kill his units with to kill his units with the whatever this is called, lightning rush. Of course. Of course.
So shiny, it's gotta be way strong. Ready, Hammer?
Okay, we'll go about it this way. If we can hit him for 4, then we can get a kill with a lightning rush. God damn it. Insane. Insane. Oh, you know what's going to happen though? I kind of missed on this. The Returno wrench on the flame chompers is going to return to hand, and then he can't flip his Jinx. LOL. That's how we're getting them. That's how we're getting them.
Balance in all things.
So we'll send the 2 to face. We'll get to replay Kennen, double Mark of the Storm onto Jinx. Maybe that'll finally be enough. Opponent says it is. Probably had your 3rd Jinx. I guess he could have had his 3rd Jinx on top of the deck, and then that wouldn't have that wouldn't have been able to get around the wrenches. Oof. Such an important card in the match, and to have her do no death rockets, no flipping or anything, that's a pain point. Okay, glad we got out of that one. Now up against the Kennen Jinx match, not amped about having Fleet Feather trackers in this match, right? You want to think of this a lot in the same way we were talking about scouts, as to where you want to get all of your 2-for-1 units on the board. And so if we pick up an equipment, the Elkin becomes a 2-for-1 unit, the Broadwing's a 2-for-1 unit, since everything in the opposing deck is a 2-1. And then, you know, Badger Bear is, of course, big enough to get in front of everything that the opponent's doing. And so, we'll see.
The Sunbrook got me good. I am lightning. I break the wind.
Kennen comes in. All right. Well, I'm going to give up on the Elkin. This is a little bit too much damage coming in to just let it roll. So send the equipment back into hand just to minimize the damage we take. I have to imagine if this game progresses on, we're just going to be okay. We have all the expensive cards in the world. So at least, you know, with this next turn, we can Badger Bear, hook in the Kennen with the bird, and then maybe a few turns from now get a Quinn bird with an Aegis or something. We'll hook the Kennen out of combat. Like, if he has another Kennen, we're losing the unit that's lightning rushed anyways. So we're not losing, risking anything, I should say, with a second Kennen coming in.
Anything helps.
Okay, Squeaker coming in. Just got to make it a little bit further. Interesting space here, though. And do we want to add the Defector, or do we want to go Bird into a Aegis? I think we just get the Defector in, right? At the end of the day, we're only getting one unit on the board this turn. Like, I guess you could say, well, if we play Valor and the Bloodletters, we can get 2. But I don't think that's going to be particularly common. Do we want to take down the Squeaker? I think we do. The thing I kind of think of is the Squeaker starts to be potentially hookable by the Blinding Assault from the Valor, but it also has the potential to just grow to get like a single target removal onto the Defector, and that's not something I really want to see. Let's lead with the bird. I start to envision what we can do with Fish Fight now, right? In the sense that, you know, we're close to being in a strike space. So he takes down the bird. You can keep the 2-bank with the Fish Fight, and then just look to get strikes in with Aatrox next round. I think we have to keep Fish Fight for Jinx, but we are getting kind of low on health, and so we might have to just look away from it if we can. But definitely happy to trade with the Crasher, if that's what's about to happen here. I mean, the Crasher has impact 2, so if we have to deal with those impacts, not really excited about it. Now, I mean, he's got this Jinx on the board. We're gonna get the chance to take her down. We're gonna take it. Do lose out on a strike from Aatrox, but you know, that's just too much to leave down. Then we'll hit with the Defector. I think he just takes the damage here, but if we get to take away his chance to deal impact damage to us, I'll be happy with that. Alright, here's the big boy. Discards double Returno Wrench. Womp womp, dude. Womp womp. It's kind of a scary boom baboon. Like, I assumed that we were just going to start cruising through these attacks with our Aatrox, but seeing that guy come on board leaves me a little scared.
I trade time as Mendigi, Captain.
So here I'm looking to Giral. We'll load Giral up I was thinking with the Darken Harp, but it might be just enough to load him up with the Spear. Like, as we're getting to this space to where we just don't have a ton of cards in our hand, I kind of like the card draw we get from Striatu, but I now worry a little bit that we're gonna run out or we're not gonna run out of stuff to do, but we're gonna run out of units on board. And so if we get into some weird combat here, he somehow kills off both of our units, right? Then he has the opportunity to attack through. Now that our dude's quick attacking, we get to take a lot more away from him. Okay. Aatrox still gets the strike. That's what really matters here. I think we're good. I think we're good. Opponent agrees. So, all right, not a bad set of matches. That's how we turn things around, right? You all got to sit in and watch the 0-2 video yesterday. Now you get to see us play the 5-win victory, the full 25 trophies coming at you. Good stuff. And so, yeah, you know, the lineup, I like it. The matchups against Fizz, Samira, and Kennen and Jinx are both places to where we can 2-0 both of the decks. And I get it. I understand. We've talked extensively about how you can still come out and just lose to those good matchups. But I think that that's a risk I'm willing to take, and that those are bad. The thing I'm kind of curious to see over the course of the next few days is if this kind of lineup starts to pick up. And then the kind of counter to this is still bringing like the Aatrox Vayne deck, but then like starting to fit Jinx or like starting to fit Ornn Jax into your lineup. And so I worry to a degree about seeing lineups that involve having, say, Samira Fizz, Aatrox Vayne, and then Jinx, or I keep calling Jax Jinx, Jax Ornn, because Jax Ornn is so incredibly strong against all the decks that we're bringing, and then it still has a lot of game against all of the control decks. The equipment are so good in all of those matches. You just run into the problem that deck gets trucked by Samira Fizz, and then it also has a bad matchup against the Fizz or the Jinx deck. And so that's like my ultimate concern. As I said in the previous video, there's really only so much you can worry about, and I like carrying in this idea that we'll play. The Samira will play against Jinx, and then we'll ban out the most obnoxious control deck. And then if we do run into that nonsense to where they decided to go full mid-range against our lineup, then it is what it is. But, definite step up, definite improvement from that previous video. That's all you can really ask for, though, right? You get in here, you play some games, you learn some thoughts, you learn some ideas, apply it, do a little bit better, learn some more, do a little bit better. It's all you can do, my friends. And so, good games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that's going to do it for us today. And so hope everyone enjoyed the video. If maybe learned a thing or two along the way, had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.